This is the story of the poor miller's boy and the cat, and it's for Lillian and Rosalie. I love you guys. Once upon a time there lived a miller who had neither a wife nor a child. 3 young men worked for him as apprentices, learning the miller's trade. One day, after they had been with the miller for several years, he said to them, "I am old and cannot work forever. I want each of you 3 to go out and find a horse. I will give the mill to whoever brings back the best one." The very next day, all 3 lads set out down the road to their quest. They walked till it was nightfall without finding any horses. They had found a cave to sleep in for the night, but the 2 older apprentices had hatched a nasty plan. They got up while the 3rd, younger apprentice was sleeping and went on their way, leaving him in the cave alone. Eric, that was his name, woke up very upset to find himself all alone. He wandered out of the cave and set off sadly down the road. As he walked, he met a small gray cat, which said quite kindly, "Eric, I know what you're looking for." Eric was too astonished to speak, so the cat continued. "You want to find a beautiful horse," the cat said. "Come with me and work as my servant for 7 years, and I will give you the one more beautiful than you have ever seen in your whole life." Well, this certainly was an amazing cat, thought Eric to himself. Maybe she's speaking the truth. So he went along with her to her enchanted castle, which was filled with cat servants. They leapt nimbly upstairs and downstairs, and all seemed very happy. In the evening, Eric and the gray cat sat down to dinner. 3 of the cat servants played music while they all ate. One blew a bassoon, the other bowed a fiddle, and the 3rd puffed his cheeks at the trumpet. So this is the fiddle, which my grandpa used to play. That's the bassoon. And that's the trumpet. And that's the big cheeks. That's Eric. And the sus cat. "Now take him to bed," the gray cat ordered. One cat carried a candle and led Eric to his bedroom. Another cat pulled his shoes off, the second took his stockings off, and another cat turned down the bedclothes and blew out the candle. The next morning the cats returned to help Eric out of bed. One put his stockings on, another slipped his feet into his shoes, one washed his face and dried it with her tail. "Oh, I could get used to this," Eric thought happily. But then it was his turn to start work. The gray cat had said he wanted Eric to chop wood every day. She gave him a silver axe, and that's what he did. He stayed living with the cats and worked hard, and he was very content. Once the gray cat asked him to harvest the wheat in her fields, and once she asked him to build her a small house, and the 7 years passed by as swiftly as they were just 7 months. Then the gray cat asked Eric if he would like to see her horses. "Oh, yes, please," replied Eric. The gray cat opened the door of her stables, and there stood 12 horses, so bright and shining that his heart leapt with the sight of them. "Now return to the mill," said the gray cat, "and in 3 days I will bring you a horse." Eric trusted the cat and trudged off down the road back to the mill. The 2 other apprentices had returned long ago, each dragging an old nag behind them. They sneered at Eric and mocked him when they saw him coming. After all, Eric was without a horse, and he was still dressed in the same dirty smock that he had been wearing when they last saw him 7 years ago. The 2 apprentices even said he was too ragged to come into the mill to eat. Instead, they gave him a tiny morsel of supper they had in the barn. They had to have in the barn, where he had spent the night in the hay. However, Eric didn't mind. The next morning, the 3 days had passed since he had left the gray cat. As the sun rove, a golden coach came driving up to the mill, pulled by 6 gleaming horses behind a groom rode a seventh. The coach came to a stop outside the barn, and a beautiful princess got out of it. To Eric's amazement, the princess spoke to him. She said, "I was the little gray cat, whom you had served faithfully for 7 years. Now I will reward you richly for all your hard work." That's a coach right there. And that's a groom. And there's the 6 horses and the princess, and Eric in his dirty clothes. She clapped her hands for her butler to come forward. He unpacked royal clothes and dressed Eric in them. When Eric was ready, he looked more handsome than a prince. Then the princess strode off to find the miller. She asked to see the horses the other 2 apprentices had brought home with them. They were a sorry sight. One was blind and the other was lame. Then the princess ordered her groom to show the 7th horse, which she had brought for Eric. The miller admired the wonderful horse. "The mill belongs to Eric," he said, reaching out for the reins. But the princess shook her head. "Keep your little mill and the horse." Then she showed Eric into her golden carriage and drove away with him. They went straight to the little house which he had built, and Eric saw that it had turned magically into an enchanted castle, filled with treasures. He was richer than he could ever have dreamt. There, he and the princess were married, and they lived happily ever after. So let no one ever say that the best stories have sad endings. And I've been told I'm supposed to say like and share, or like and subscribe for more.